friends, welcome back. It is a little bit chilly and a little bit snowy today, so it's the perfect time to talk about cozy fantasy reads. I read a ton of cozy fantasy. I find them to be very comforting and a very good escape, so I'm going to take you through some of my favorites and some that are on my TBR. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't start out by talking about Legends and Lattes, Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. There is another book coming out in this series this year. These are some like OG cozy fantasy. I think in many ways these books define the genre. There is very low stakes, there's a lot of whimsy, there is a little bit of romance, and there's like very thoughtful community building and connection. If you haven't read these yet, you need to start with Legends and Lattes, where you follow a retired adventurer who decides to open a coffee shop in a fantasy town where coffee does not exist. These are phenomenal. If you love these, just dive deeper into the series because they're so much fun. And if you like these, but you're interested in something a little more boozy, Cursed Cocktails is going to be a phenomenal option for you. Cursed Cocktails follows a blood mage who moves to a small town in his retirement to open a cocktail bar. This book is inspired in many ways by S.L. Rowland's own experience with chronic illness, and it is done absolutely to perfection. There's even this like magic fox thing that you're gonna fall in love with, I promise. And this is also a queer romance. There are more books in this series that I have not read yet, and I really need to get to them. The third is maybe my all-time favorite series, and it's the Tea and Tome series that starts with Can't Spell Treason Without Tea. In this story, we have a Queen's Guard member and a Mage of Ages who flee the Queen's Kingdom to have like their sapphic romance journey, and they find themselves in a small town where they open up a bookshop slash coffee shop slash tea shop slash community building place with house plants, and they decide to start a new life there. And the story is absolutely beautiful. They also have some stuff to solve with some local dragon issues, and I find that the relationship in this series is the most healthy fictional relationship I have ever read. They experience a lot of challenges and they talk through them in such a meaningful way. And once you read Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, you can move on to A Pirate's Life for Tea, which has double the lesbians. What more to ask for? We have like basically a Robin Hood situation going on with a pirate. And then the third book, To You at the Altar, just came out, and it is so good. It's an absolute delight, and it like brings together a lot of what has been building up in the background over this series. And then we'll have one more book that releases later this year that I'm hoping to read as well. If you're looking to add some BIPOC voices into your cozy fantasy reading, don't worry, I've got you. You definitely are going to want to read Asiri and the Amaru. This is a beautiful, vibrant story that follows Asiri, a woman who wants to leave the place where she lives with her father, where her ability to speak with animals is being sort of commodified, and she ends up moving to a small village, learning textile work, and partnering with the very handsome vet in town to save a mystical creature that they did not know existed. This is very cozy. There's like 2 seconds of very high stakes towards the end, but it's so fun and it's so beautifully written. I also recently finished reading a novella called Thaumaturgic Tapas, and this follows a magical being who runs a restaurant called the Nameless Restaurant, as he is creating a tapas menu that incorporates all of the leftovers. And so the food that he is serving is so diverse and interesting, it will make your mouth water. You will want to eat everything. And there is a magical element as well. He is a magical being, and the new employee is also magical. I don't want to tell you too much because it is a novella, so it's not super long. I don't want to spoil anything, but this is an absolute delight. And if you have the ability to listen to it on audio, I could not more highly recommend it. It is the most like comforting, soothing, chill audiobook I think I have ever listened to. on a similar but also very different note, if you have not yet read The Baby Dragon Cafe, you are in for a treat. It is so sweet and silly and cute. This is set in a world where people of a certain class are able to raise dragons. And so our main character, after her grandmother passes away, opens up a baby dragon cafe where people can bring their dragons with them, and they cause chaos and they're delightful until she meets someone who's really struggling with Sparky, their mischievous dragon, and she ends up training Sparky, and it is so sweet. Another book in this series is coming out this year, so I will eagerly be anticipating the sequel. But if you're looking for something silly and light that is very slice of life, very low stakes, The Baby Dragon Cafe is going to be right up your alley. And we can't talk about a cafe without talking about baking. If you have not yet read J.C. Penner's Fellowship of Bakers and Magic, you are in luck because it is getting republished with this stunning cover. Admittedly, I liked the first cover, but this new one is so fun. And this follows a Great British Bake Off style competition with magical beings. It is sweet, it is funny, there are a little bit of like tense moments and there's a bit of a mystery to be solved. But I am positive that if you love Great British Bake Off and you love cozy fantasy, this is going to knock it out of the park for you. And the second book, I believe, has a librarian. So what more could we possibly want? I highly recommend adding this to your TBR. If you're looking for something with like a little bit more of like a philosophical vibe, you might want to check out the Monk and Robot series, which is actually about to be published together as like an omnibus. But it contains a Psalm for the Wild Bill and a crown for the and a Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. And this is set in a world where robots have become sentient and then freed into the wild. And this first book follows a tea monk who is traveling to give people the things that they need when he bumps into a wild robot and starts to ask a lot of questions about what it means to be human and what humanity is meant to be. It's absolutely stunning. If you're looking for a tearjerker, I would say this is more like cozy adjacent magical realism, but House of Frank is absolutely stunning. This was released by Kay Sinclair in 2024, and this is the story of a woman who promises her dying sister that she will bury her ashes at the House of Frank like arboretum to bring like part of her spirit back through a tree. And when our main character gets there, she finds that they might need her and she might need them. She might not be quite ready yet. And this is an incredible story of grief, of sapphic romance, of making peace with grief, found family. It's absolutely stunning. And if that is like a vibe that you really like, I also think that you will like The Phoenix Keeper. This tells the story of Isla, who is a phoenix keeper at a zoo for magical creatures, and she is able to reopen the breeding program. The only challenge is that there is a threat to the phoenix eggs. This story is very slice of life, very sweet. There is a mystery to solve, but it is overall pretty low stakes, and I really loved it. I personally really resonated with Isla's experience with anxiety. She can be frustrating, but overall I found her really like endearing, and I loved this story. And the last of my recommendations is a pretty classic one. You've probably heard about it, and it is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. This follows a witch who is pretending to be a fake witch on the internet, who is roped in to a job where she is going to be training younger witches in a very complicated magical society. The second book in this series, A Witch's Guide to Innkeeping, should be coming out in 2025, so that gives you something else to look forward to. Now, let's talk about some cozy books that are on my TBR that I'm hoping to read in the next couple of months. I could really use a little bit of like cozy comfort in my life. Actually, later today, I will be starting A Sorceress in Scones. My friend Brett Mitchell Kent sent this my way, and it looks phenomenal. The cover is stunning, and I feel like a little bit of magic and a little bit of pastries is exactly what I need today. A recent release is A Teller of Small Fortunes. This follows like a traveling caravan where people give out fortunes, and I've heard that it actually has some really phenomenal commentary on the treatment of immigrants. The cover is stunning. I have a physical copy. I keep meaning to read it, so I need to get on that very soon. And then we have a few cozy fantasies that are actually coming out very soon. In March, we're getting a Harvest of Hearts, and I have heard that this is like a whimsical, like cozy fantasy that has similar vibes as House on the Cerulean Sea. So I cannot wait to read it, and it's coming out from Kensington Press, so I hope that you'll check that out as well. In addition, we have Homegrown Magic coming out, which is about a magical family, and I believe there's like connection between sisters, so I can't wait to know more about that book. And the last cozy fantasy on my TBR is The Keeper of Lonely Spirits, and this is about a person who I believe is like in a house that is like haunted by spirits, and their job is to help them cross over or something. And if you have other cozy fantasy favorites, please tell me about them in the comments.